as I promised you yesterday we solved systems graphically, paper pencil, right? So we actually graphed them, found where they intersected on the graph paper, and we figured out that was our solution. Okay, so today we're going to focus on technology. Okay, so every one of you have a calculator. So I'm going to show you guys the steps on how to do that, right? But before I do that, let's just do a quick warm up again. So example 1 just says, guy solved the linear system, and there's the system. His solution is 2 comma -5. Verify whether guy's solution is correct. So we already talked about this yesterday. So if I give you a solution, all you have to do is verify if it's correct by substituting it back into the equation, right? And seeing if the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. So let's formally get it into your notes, because I made one up yesterday, but it wasn't formal in your notes. And you guys did this already for homework, right? So if he solved it and you're just checking to see, and this is how you guys would check in this unit to see once you solve if you're correct as well, right? So you would take your ordered pair, right? So your ordered pair is 2 comma -5. So the 2 is the x, right? And the -5 is the y. So you take the original equations and you just do a substitution, right? So the 2 is going to go where the x is, and the -5 is going to go where the y is. And you're just checking to see if the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. That's verifying. So if we throw them in, you have 2 minus 2 times my y, which is -5, equals 12. We're not moving anything. We're just basically, right, you have the left side, the right side. So you could just type that into the calculator if you wanted to, right? So a negative and a negative will change to a positive. So it is beautiful. Again, checking only one is not enough, right? Bless you. If you did your homework yesterday, did some of them work in one and not the other? Yes. So that's why it's so important that you check both, because just because it worked in one does not mean it's a solution to the system. So then you grab the other one. Right, so you grab the other one, and then you, again, just put your values in. You're doing substitution of numbers. So then you would go 3 times 2 minus 2 times -5. And again, you could type that into your calculator and show no more work. I'm just showing all my steps, which you don't need to. So 2 negatives would make a positive. So 16 does not equal 4. So therefore, he solved it wrong. Right, so what we just concluded, that 2 comma -5 is not a solution. And a good question would be me showing the work, right? Once we start doing algebra, right? A common question is, I might show you all the steps and then you would have to find the mistake, right? That would be a good question to give. Right? Not really when we're solving it graphically, because there's not a lot of mistakes we can do except rearranging the equations wrong, right? All right, so we're going to solve these on the calculator now. The grid paper's there. We'll still put it on the grid, but it'll just be more of a sketch. We're going to use our calculator to be able to find that point of intersection. So grab the calculator. I'm going to do this very slowly. I'm not going to move on until all of you say, yep, we're good. Okay. So your calculator only accepts y equals equations. So is this first system set up that I can use the calculator right away? Yes. Okay. So they need to be in y equals. That's where we put our equations. So right at the first column, the very first button on the very far left. You guys all see it? So you press it. So press y equals. And then if you have information and stuff in there right now, just hit the clear button. I don't have anything there, but just hit clear if you have something there. The other thing you need to look for, guys, don't do this. Don't press any of these buttons. I'm just showing you guys something. If you went into y equals, do any of you have the plot 1, plot 2, plot 3 darkened? So good. We do not want them darkened. Okay. That turns another part of the calculator on, which you don't need to know about right now, but we always want those turned off. Okay. We play in that plot 1, plot 2 realm at grade 11 in the -2 stream. But we don't, like I said, it's basically asking the calculator to look at some tables that we're not going to use. So the reason why I bring this up is sometimes students throw their calculators in their bag without the cover on. Do you think this could get turned on by accident sometimes? Yes, so it always does. And when it does sometimes, then it kicks us out when we're trying to graph because the calculator will get confused. So just make sure anytime you come in here, and if those accidentally get turned on for some reason, all you have to do is just use your up arrow, highlight it, hit enter on it, and go down. Enter on it. There we go. And it'll shut it off. So just make sure all of those are turned off. So everybody's are not highlighted. Okay, so now we can type in our equation. So we have negative, right? So the negative is down here. And then 2x plus 2. Just give me 2 seconds. You do have an X shortcut button that we're going to use. Right, so fast way, so we'll just hit, so again, you have to use the negative button. You cannot use the minus button, right? If you've had your graphing calculator for a while, you already know this. Those ones that have not used this calculator before, the minus can only be used when you're separating two terms, okay? If it's a negative number, you have to use the negative down here that's highlighted. So everybody use that? So then you're gonna hit 2. Now your X shortcut button, guys, there is an X down here in the first column where it says store, but that's the long way of getting it. Right beside the alpha, right up here, do you guys all see the XT theta N button? That's your fast shortcut button for X. So you're just gonna hit that. So everybody's got the negative 2x. And then we're gonna go plus 2. So that's my first one. So just hit enter. And then we'll put in the second one. So we're just going to hit again right beside the alpha button, the X button, and -7. So just normal -7. Everybody have that in their calculator? Exactly how it looks for me? You don't? Why not? So guys, the app, you're still typing exactly the same buttons as I'm typing. Okay, everybody else? I don't want to move on until everybody's at the same thing. We're good? So the next thing with the calculator is it has its own graph paper. You have to make sure, especially if you're using one of mine, the window, the graph paper is going to be all over the place just because we use them in all my classes and we need different graph paper to graph different things, okay? So the graph paper that's going to work for these ones is just a nice -10 to 10. Do you guys agree on the x-axis, a -10 to 10, -10 to 10 going up by 1 is probably a nice graph paper to use? So where your graph paper is, everybody right beside the y equals, see where it says window? It should say graph paper, right? Because that's kind of the term you guys would understand. But the window is what it's going to graph on is going to be in this window here. So everybody hit window, which is right beside the y equals. So yours can look different than mine, right? Because if you're using one of my calculators, we change this graph paper all the time depending on what we're graphing. So this is called a standard window, okay, which is a graph paper that works for lots of different questions. So this is what I'd like all of you guys to have. Okay, so if you don't, what you're gonna do, you don't actually have to manually type this, believe it or not. Because do you guys agree that you could go negative, like you don't do this? Could you type -10, hit enter, not a -110, sorry, -10. Could you type this all in exactly how my screen looks if I asked you to? Yes. But this window, the company made this window called a standard window. So if you ever want this window, you can just hit a zoom. So this is what we're all going to do so we have the same window. So zoom is at the very top, right beside window. See all these buttons here we're using. So everybody hit zoom. Everybody see that screen? 6. So just hit number 6. You could scroll down and hit enter on 6 or just hit number 6. That's going to be your standard window. So hit 6 and the graph's going to pop up. So with the app, your screen when you hit zoom didn't look like that. Yours had -10, 10, -10, 10, and the scale was at the bottom. Just make sure that that window is the same. If it doesn't, put up your hand and I will come help you. Yeah, Arden? So hit zoom. 6. Right up here. Zoom. 6. So if your graph doesn't look like that, put up your hands. Hit zoom. Not second zoom, just zoom. Zoom. 6. There you go. Sorry. I got it right. Okay, so then you're good. Anybody else does that look like that?
You put -2x or 2x?
She has a star beside her. So guys, if you have the app, hitting zoom 6 doesn't actually get you the graph in front of you. You actually have to hit graph, which is very far right top button. So if you have the app, just hit graph. What did you do? You're separating.
Hit the minus button and click on
Yeah. So guys, everybody, because now this is 5 people that I've seen it, so I'm just going to say it with everybody. Please, guys, go into your y equals. You cannot use a negative between the x and y. Right? So here you had to use the minus. So those ones that put a negative there, just go up with your button, like with your arrows. Go down, go in between here. Whoopsie, go up. Because some of you are doing this. You're using a -7, and should that be a -7? No, it's when you separate two terms, you need to put a minus. Because otherwise, what this is doing, guys, is going -7 times x. That's not what we want. We needed to use the negative in front of the 2 because we weren't separating anything. It was a -2. This is x minus 7, so please make sure that you put a minus, not a negative. Okay? So check your screen now. Are we all there? That should have fixed yours, right? Do I have another one? I have like 15 of it. I don't think I have. Oh, I do. So just get those in there really quick. All right. So our calculator will calculate that point of intersection. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to write down the steps. Don't touch anything. Just so they're in here. We're going to hit stat. And I'll show you where that is in a second. Sorry, not stat. Sorry, I'm thinking regression right now. Try that again. We're going to hit second trace. Right, so this is the first thing we're going to do. So second, right, first column, see where it says second? So hit second. Traces up here right beside graph. Oops. And stick there. Can everybody get to that screen? So that's called our calculate screen. Because see where we hit second in the blue, it says CALC, calc. This is what we call our calc screen, our calculate screen. Any guesses which one we're going to pick? Yeah, the intersect, right? So we're going to go second, trace, and then we're going to pick number 5. So we're going to pick number 5, which is intersect. So again, you can either hit number 5, so you can hit 5, or you can use your arrow down and hit enter on 5, your choice. So you hit 5. So again, everybody's there. Hit number 5. So does everybody have that? That's not the intersection yet, but does everybody have the face saying first curve? Okay. So what you're going to do at first curve, you're just going to hit enter. So you're just going to hit enter. Now this is where the regular graphing calculators, right? So just hit enter. Should say, I want to hit it again. So hit enter. It should say second curve. Now this is where the ones that are using the app, you got to just give me a second. So the ones that are using just the regular graphing calculators, the physical graphing calculator, you can just hit enter again. The ones that have that calculator app, did you guys notice that when you hit enter, a vertical line happens on your screen? Right? So what you have to do is you have to use your arrow over buttons, like your right arrow, and move it to the other side of the intersection. So just hitting enter until you, because again, with the app, guys, the people that have an app, they got a vertical line that showed up. So what you have to do is use your arrow over buttons until you pass the intersection point, and then you're going to hit enter again. The ones that don't have the app, you don't have to move it at all, right? You'll just hit enter again, right? So you'll get intersection once you hit enter 3 times. Because remember I was touching it, I hit it another time by accident. So when it says second curve, you'll hit enter. Then it should have said guess. Did you guys see that? So I'm just going to start this again so you guys can see it one more time. So calc number 5. So when it says first curve, you hit enter. If you have a regular calculator, you just hit enter again 3 times. If you have the app, you have to move the cursor over to the other side. So you hit enter again. So it's 3 times you're hitting enter. And then the third time, the intersection should show up on the bottom. If you have the app on your phone, you have a few things on the bottom, but one of them, right underneath the graph, should say intersection. And those 2 numbers should be there. Anybody not get that on their calculator or their app? Yeah, Arda? So you're going to calc intersection. So you just hit that. Hit enter. And enter. Yeah. So guys, if you got that, do the next one. So the next one you have to rearrange your equations. So rearrange your equations for y and I'll be ready. So again, guys, these are your steps. Second, so your second is literally where it says second. Trace. Number 5, you hit enter 3 times. That will get you the intersection of your thing. So here, I'm just going to sketch it because what's our main point that we want? We want our intersection. So our intersection is 3, -4. So I would plot that. And then I could just do my y-intercepts of my other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my solution, so you do need to say what your solution is, guys. Right, so my solution is where x equals 3 and y equals -4. All right, so did every single person get 3, -4 on their calculator at some point in time? Yes, yes? Okay. So with this one, we can't use our calculator right now yet because your calculator only accepts y equals equations, right? So we have to, just like we did in chapter 6 and 7, rearrange that. So if I rearrange it, I'm going to take the 2x over because we're trying to get y by itself. So this would be my first step. I'd have 3y equals, if I take the positive 2x over, it's going to become a negative on the other side. So far, so good. And then we have to divide everything by what? 3. So divide everything by 3. And the nice thing is, guys, your calculator accepts everything. It doesn't care about gross fractions or anything. So on the calculator, we're going to be typing in -2/3x minus 1/3. 1/3 is not nice, so we're going to leave it as a fraction. So let's do each one before I move on to the next one. So go back to y equals. Let's clear that stuff out. So just don't hit delete, just hit clear because then it clears the whole line. You don't have to do each piece. So clear is right underneath the arrows, right here. Right, so hit clear, then use your arrow down, hit clear again. Has everybody got their stuff out of there from the last one? So put our slope, if it's a fraction, guys, put our slope in brackets. So our brackets are right up over top the 8, 9. Do you guys see where the brackets are now? Look down. Brackets are right over the 8 and 9 buttons. So go bracket. Put your slope in. So negative. So you can't go. So guys, when I say negative, I'm always going to use the button, very far bottom button. If I say minus, I'm using like multiplication, division, minus, plus symbols. So it has to be a negative. Going really slow. 2. Divide by, so there's no fraction button. You guys are used to our fraction button. On the graphing calculator, there is a fraction button if you have an 84 or higher, but we don't need to use that. Just use the divide by symbol. So just divide by 3. Close our bracket, right? Because that's our slope. And we know that our slope is always multiplied by x. So x is our right beside our alpha button. And then not negative, we're going minus 1, and just use your divide symbol. Divide by, not 11. Sorry. Divide by 3. So everybody have that one in their calculator? Yes, yes. Put up your hand if you don't. Okay, so let's do our second one. So our second one, I'm going to move the 3x over. So I'm going to have a minus 4y equals negative 3x minus 10. Again, as soon as we move something over the equal sign, to get rid of a plus 3x, I have to minus 3x from both sides. So the last step, I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. So the second one I'm typing in is y equals. Could I leave the two, like the negative on the 3 and the negative on the 4 if I really wanted to? Would your calculator be okay with that? Yes. I'm not going to though, because 2 negatives makes a positive. But if you left them on there, your calculator would be like, I don't care, it's fine. But I do, it's just less typing that I have to punch in buttons if I simplify a little bit. And then same thing, negative divided by negative is a positive. I'm not going to simplify that, even though I know I can. I know it's 5 over 2, which is 2.5. Will your calculator accept 2.5 instead of 10 over 4? Yeah, I want to do the least amount possible right now. So again, because our calculator is doing the work for us, we don't have to simplify anything. Right? If you want to, great. Even the signs, guys, you could have put negative and negative when you typed it in for all of them. That would have been fine. All right, so let's now go down and type this in. So the slope in brackets is, and the only time I put my slope in brackets, guys, is if I have a numerator and a denominator. If it, like the last one where it's just a 2, I don't have to put it in brackets. This just avoids putting the x in the denominator. I just know that I want to always take my slope. So 3 divided by 4 times it by my x plus 10 divided by 4, which again, you could have said 2.5 instead. Could have said 5 over 2 instead. So does everybody's screen look like that? Put up your hand if it doesn't. It's okay if it doesn't, because some of you have never touched a graphing calculator before. So I don't expect you to be amazing. I expect you to be a little bit lost and confused with the buttons because you've never seen them before. Are you good? Good, good, good. All right. So once we have that, let's all hit graph to make sure our graphs look the same. Right. So just hit graph, which is very top, far right. Does everybody have a graph that looks like that? Because we didn't change our graph paper. So we should all have something that looks like that. Yours are black and white kind of idea. There's not color, but we're good. Awesome. All right, so then same thing as before, guys. We're gonna go these steps again. So second, which is first column, second button down. It literally says second on it. So second, trace. Number what? 5. You guys should be good. Second trace, number 5. And when it says first curve, you're going to hit what? Enter. When it says second curve, you're going to hit enter. When it says guess, you're going to hit enter. So just think, enter 3 times. Again, if you have the app, you have to move your cursor over to the other side of the intersection, and you only hit enter twice. Okay, so if you have the app, you're only hitting enter twice. Okay, you're hitting it once and then moving your cursor to the other side of the point of intersection. You're hitting enter, and it'll actually give you your intersection on hitting it the second time. The calculator, you have to hit it 3 times. Did everybody get -2, 1? Everybody did? Yes, yes. All right, so for our sketch, guys, all I want you guys to do on our grid paper is plot -2, 1. So -2, 1. That's my point of intersection. And then could I sketch around that from the picture here? Yeah, but you guys at least know my first one has, like this one has a line intercept of approximately like 2.5. So just put that on there. And this one has a line intercept of a -1/3. So you might as well, even though it's a sketch, we know those 2 points, so why not put them in? So 2.5, there's one of my lines. And the other one had a y-intercept of a -1/3, so right about there. So my solution is where x equals -2 and y equals 1. Normally, guys, if I ask you to use technology, I won't make you sketch the graph because the graph's on your calculator, but if I do, you should be able to do that. Okay. So rearrange this one. This one we're not going to sketch, we're just going to use the calculator. So this, you're testing your rearranging skills. So look up when you're done rearranging. Make sure they're the same as mine. Pardon? Yeah, so this one, we're not sketching it. We're just going to find the solution on the calculator. And most of the time, guys, if I ask you to use technology, I'm not going to make you graph it paper, pencil, because the graph is on the calculator, and technology is what I'm testing. And we do technology as well. So your work, if I'm asking you to use technology, guys, is your y-equal equations, right? Because if you do your y-equal equations properly, your calculator is never going to calculate it wrong. Right, so we can't use technology unless we can rearrange an equation, which all of you can do that. Just please make sure your signs are bang on when you're rearranging. So if something is getting moved over the equal sign, you have to balance it, right, by changing the sign. So everybody double check that they rearrange their equations right before you type them into the calculator. Because do the signs have to be exactly the same as mine? Yes. Right, so make sure your slope sign is the same as what I have. Make sure your y-intercept sign is the same as what I have. So if you have the same equations, same signs, then go ahead, put them into your calculator. So this rearranging equation stuff, guys, is not new. Did we do a lot of that in chapter 6 and 7? Yes. So at this point in time, we should be very efficient with moving stuff around the equal sign, because if you get even one sign wrong, the whole thing's wrong, right? So you can't move something over the equal sign and not balance, right? Because if you want to get rid of the 5x on the left, you have to minus 5x on both sides, right? And so on. All right, so let's go ahead and put it in the calculator. Sometimes students look at this. Could you just have left it as negative x over 3 and type negative x over 3 into the calculator? Yeah, that would have worked. It would have been the same thing. I just wanted to show you guys negative x over 3 does have a slope of negative 1 over 3. But if you left it as negative x over 3, it's equivalent. Your calculator would have been okay. Bless you. So let's get rid of our last stuff. And so I'll leave that screen for a second, make sure everybody gets it typed in. So when we're separating the two terms, guys, please, you have to use the buttons on the far right. It has to be a plus or a minus, okay? If it's a negative number, like the negative third, that's the only time you use the negative button on the bottom. Separating two things, it has to be a plus or minus. So once you have that typed in and you graph it, you should have something that looks like that. So calculate, intersect, enter, enter, enter. So your goal is to get, so that's my solution. So my solution is where x equals 3 and y equals 2. If you don't get that, put up your hand, double check your equations, okay? What we're going to do is I'm going to break it up into two pieces. I'm not going to do a word problem yet. I want to make sure you guys get more practice with this first, okay? So if you get 3 and 2, then you'll go to the assignment booklet, and I think there's 4 there. So you're going to do, not those ones. So you're going to go to page 4 and do these 3. Okay, so I'm going to give you like 10-ish minutes to do these 3, and then I'll do the word problem with you guys.